All right, so get ready to dive into something incredible because today we're headed straight to Finland. You guys sent in some incredible travel guides, and we were so excited to really get into it. We're going way beyond the touristy stuff, though. This is about uncovering what makes Finland special. I'm talking about the landscapes and the culture, those little quirks that make it unique.
And what really gets me is how much Finland has to tell us. It's more than just pretty views. It's a whole country shaped by history, the environment, this resilience that just echoes through everything they do.
You hit the nail on the head with resilience, because one thing that jumped out from these guides was this. Finland has more lakes than Thailand. And I mean, we're not talking about a few extra ponds here. This is a whole landscape that's practically got its feet in the water.
It's true, and it's not just a fun fact. Just picture how all that water has become part of them. Their stories, their myths, even how they rely on the water for everything.
Right.
From getting around to getting their dinner, it all comes back to that one big geographical fact.
It's like their whole culture is right there on the edge of those lakes.
Exactly.
And, speaking of things that are super ingrained in Finnish culture, we have got to talk about saunas.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it's not just about getting clean, right?
Not even close. Think of it like a ritual, a social thing, something they just build their lives around. This isn't a quick steam. It's about relaxing together, unwinding, reconnecting with yourself and other people. It's such a part of who they are that Helsinki alone has over 3,000 public saunas.
3,000. You could practically trip and fall into a sauna in Helsinki. But before we get too relaxed here, I think it's important to step back and look at the history that makes Finland so interesting.
I completely agree. To really appreciate Finland now, you've got to understand where it came from. So picture this. 1917, the world is a mess, there's a war going on, and in the middle of it all, Finland decides we're independent. That fight for their own identity, to do things their own way, it left a real mark on them.
It's that resilience again, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's in their art, their writing, even how connected they are to nature. It's like they found strength in the very land they were fighting for.
Exactly. And speaking of finding strength in the land, we can't forget about the nickname that really sums up Finland, a land of 1,000 lakes. It's a beautiful image, but it doesn't even come close to what those lakes really mean.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to read 1,000 lakes in a book, but it's another to imagine yourself kayaking across them, surrounded by forests that have been there forever.
You get it. And this is where we go from the general idea of Finland to a specific place, Lake Saimaa.
Lake Saimaa.
Yes.
Finland's biggest lake. I bet the pictures are incredible.
It's way more than just a pretty picture, though. Just imagine you're hiking through these amazing forests, the air is crisp and clean, and then the trees open up and boom, there's Lake Saimaa. This place is a dream for anyone who loves the outdoors. It's how locals make a living, and it's inspired artists and writers forever.
It's like walking straight into a storybook. But a storybook with, really amazing hiking trails. Okay, you've convinced me about Finland's nature, but what about city life? Let's head over to Helsinki and see what's going on there.
Yeah.
You know what? Speaking of storybooks, Helsinki sounds like it has a whole chapter to itself. I have to say, just reading the name Helsinki in these guides, it just makes me think of some super stylish European adventure.
Well, get ready for a little cultural twist right off the bat. So you get to Helsinki, and you might see Helsinki on a sign, but then also Helsingfors. And it's not a mistake.
Oh, I was starting to think maybe the travel writers had a little too much of that lingonberry juice or something.
Not quite. This is where knowing a bit of Finnish history adds something really cool to the trip. See, Finnish and Swedish, they're both official languages in Finland. So Helsinki, that's the Finnish name, but Helsingfors, that's Swedish.
That's so interesting. It's like the city itself is a mix of different cultures, kind of like that East meets West thing we were talking about earlier.
Exactly. And there's no place you see that mix more than in Helsinki's architecture. You mentioned storybooks before, and that is such a perfect way to describe the work of this architect, Alvar Aalto.
Oh, yeah, the guys mentioned him. His buildings are scattered all over the city, right? Like works of art.
They really are. Imagine walking down the street and you see these buildings that look like they just flow with the landscape, like natural organic shapes. That's Aalto's style.
He really took that bring the outdoors in thing seriously, didn't he? Form and function all in one. But let's get back to something close to a Finn's heart, though. Saunas. Didn't you say something like 3,000 public saunas in Helsinki alone? That's like one every other block.
It's incredible, but remember we said it before, saunas in Finland, it's not just about getting clean, it's this whole ritual, a way of life. Imagine coming in from the cold and then that warmth of the sauna. Relaxation, connection, just time to think.
Like their version of a good pub, but with more sweating.
Yeah.
And probably less singing. But hey, I'm all for communal relaxing. Sounds good to me.
For sure. And as tempting as those 3,000 saunas might be, there are other ways to really get a feel for Helsinki.
Like what? Tell me more.
If you need a break from all that heat or all the other sauna goers, I'd say check out Helsinki's historic districts.
Oh yeah, the guides mentioned those. I even wrote some of the names down. Kallio, Pudovori, and Lina, was it? What's so special about them?
Those are where you go to feel the real heartbeat of Helsinki. Think cobblestone streets, quirky little shops, those cafes with the mismatched furniture, that kind of thing.
So the perfect place to just soak up the local atmosphere, away from all the tourist traps.
You got it. Vintage stores, art galleries, those restaurants serving up traditional Finnish food, it's all there. You'll find a different pace in those districts. It's a chance to connect with Helsinki's artistic side, and really get a feel for the city's rhythm.
It's like taking a detour off the main road and finding those hidden gems that make a city special. But now, let's set sail for a destination that almost sounds too good to be true. The Åland Islands. Try saying that 5 times fast.
It is a bit of a tongue twister, isn't it? But the uniqueness of the Åland Islands, well, it goes beyond just their name. See, this archipelago, it's more than just a bunch of pretty islands. It's a self-governing region right there under Finnish control.
Wait, so it's like a country within a country. That's wild.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I'm completely fascinated by this whole thing. What's the story there?
Okay, so picture this. Over 6,700 islands, all scattered across the Baltic Sea. Each one is like a piece of this huge historical puzzle. For centuries, the Åland Islands were kind of stuck between Sweden and Finland. Their location, it made them really important, which led to a lot of, disagreement, let's say.
So those historical ties we talked about in Helsinki, they stretch all the way out here. It's amazing how these threads of the past just keep weaving their way into the present. So we've got this archipelago caught between these two cultures. What happened? How did the Åland Islands become their own thing?
Well, you've got all this history, right? And then in 1921, something happens that changes everything. The League of Nations, the group before the UN, they step in. They're the ones who give the Åland Islands this special self-governing status.
Wow, so they really did get to choose their own adventure. It sounds like they found a peaceful solution to a pretty tricky situation.
Exactly. It was a way for them to keep their culture, their language, which, by the way, is mostly Swedish, and still be connected to Finland.
It's like this amazing balancing act, holding on to their past, but still making their own future. And get this, the guides said they speak Swedish, but use the euro.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? I think it says a lot about what the Åland Islands are, this blend of different influences. But we've been talking a lot about the background, so how about some travel tips for our listeners?
Yes, please. I'm ready to trade my couch for a plane ticket. So what kind of adventures are we talking about in the Åland Islands?
Well, if you really want to see how beautiful these islands are, our guide had a surprising suggestion. Take the bus.
Wait, a bus? I've heard of scenic train rides, but a scenic bus route? That's a new one.
It might sound a little different, but trust me on this. There's this one, Line J, that's known for its views. It goes through all these charming little villages, and you get these incredible views of the Baltic Sea. Imagine looking out the window at fields of wildflowers, those cute wooden houses painted all different colors, and then glimpses of that amazing coastline.
Okay, now that has my attention. I can definitely see how that would be totally different from a tour. Or even just biking around. It's like you're slowing down, really taking in every little detail.
Exactly. And speaking of taking it slow and enjoying the scenery, the Åland Islands are perfect for cycling. Picture this, rent a bike in Miriam, the capital, and just explore.
Oh, I love that idea. There's nothing like exploring a new place on your own time, stopping whenever you want. What's it like for biking there?
The Åland Islands are famous for their bike paths. They're everywhere, going through forests, along the coast, past all these cute little villages.
Sounds like a great way to work up an appetite for some classic Finnish food. Speaking of which, we have covered so much in this deep dive. Peaceful lakes, stylish cities, even a self-governing archipelago. But there's one more thing we can't forget, those unforgettable moments that stay with you long after you come home.
You're right. And the travel guides really highlighted how important it is to go beyond just checking things off a list, to really experience Finland. Like, everyone's heard of the Northern Lights, right? But to really get it, they said you have to see them in Lapland.
Lapland. Now that's what I call a winter wonderland. What makes it so special for the Northern Lights?
It's not just about the lights, it's about everything else. Imagine this. You're standing there, The sky is exploding with colors and you're with the Sami people. You know, the reindeer herders.
Wow, that just gave me chills. And not just from the cold. It's about connecting with the place, the people, their stories. That's something you just can't get from a picture.
Absolutely. And since we're talking about moments you'll never forget, how about a truly unique Helsinki experience, the sky wheel sauna?
Wait a minute, a sauna on a Ferris wheel. You're joking, right?
Nope, totally serious. It's exactly what it sounds like. A sauna up on a Ferris wheel with these amazing views of the city. Talk about relaxation with a side of thrills.
Okay, that's going straight on my bucket list. A sauna with a view. How can you top that?
It's not about topping it. It's about how many different things you can experience in Finland. We talked about those quiet lakes, Helsinki's history, even the unique mix that is the Åland Islands.
Yeah.
But there's something they all have in common, this deep respect for nature, a love of adventure, being open to whatever comes next.
You know, that is so true. This whole deep dive, it's like we're seeing Finland in a new light. It's more than just a place to visit. It's almost like a feeling. It's about taking it slow, appreciating nature, finding those quiet moments.
That's what makes travel so great. It's about trying new things, seeing things differently, finding those connections that make the world so interesting.
Absolutely. So as you pack your bags for Finland, remember, every street, every lake, every sauna, they all have a story to tell. Happy travels, and until next time, keep exploring.